The sound wasn't a scream. It was a wet, rattling gasp that came from somewhere deep in Cole Harrington's chest. The kind of noise a man makes when his body has already started shutting down. Morgan Reeves pressed two fingers against his throat. His pulse was there, but slow. Too slow. 45 below zero. Maybe worse with the wind. Her rifle bolt was frozen solid. The spotter scope fogged white every time she breathed. And somewhere below them, through the whiteout, she could hear the dogs. Cole's eyes cracked open. His lips were blue. "Reindeer," he whispered. "Cut it open." Morgan looked at the carcass 20 meters downslope, then at the blood trail leading straight to them. She had maybe 10 minutes to decide. The mission brief came in at 0400, printed on paper so cold it crackled when Morgan Reeves unfolded it. The operations tent smelled like diesel fuel and burnt coffee. Outside, the Alaskan wind screamed across the airfield. "Target is General Alexei Volkov," the briefing officer said. He was a captain, young enough that his hands didn't shake when he pointed at the satellite photo. Russian FSB, retired. Except he's not retired. He's a broker. Bioweapons. Specifically, weaponized smallpox strains headed for Chechen separatists. Morgan studied the photo. Volkov looked like every other Russian officer she'd seen. Square jaw, dead eyes, the kind of face that didn't flinch at body counts. "He's moving through the mountain pass tomorrow at 1200 hours, the captain continued. "Weather window closes after that. Storm system moving in from the Arctic. You'll have 6 hours on target, maybe 8 if you're lucky." Cole Harrington leaned back in his folding chair. At 58, he moved like a man who'd learned to conserve energy. His calloused fingers drummed once against the table. "What's our exfil?" Cole asked. "Helicopter extraction, 12 clicks north of the kill zone. You make the shot, you move. We pull you out before the storm hits." Morgan glanced at Cole. His face didn't change, but she'd worked with him long enough to read the micro-expressions. The slight tightening around his eyes. The way his jaw shifted half an inch to the left. He didn't believe the weather window. "Any QRF in the area?" Morgan asked. "Quick reaction force. Backup." The captain hesitated. "Negative. You're operating in a gray zone. Officially, you're not there. Volkov's convoy will have security, probably Spetsnaz contractors. Maybe 8 to 10 personnel. You avoid contact, take the shot, extract clean." Cole snorted. "Nothing's clean at 40 below." The captain ignored him. "Staff Sergeant Reeves, your primary shooter. Master Sergeant Harrington, your spotter and security. Questions?" Morgan had a dozen questions. She asked none of them. "Good," the captain said. "Wheels up in 30 minutes." The helicopter insertion was a pave low, flying nap of the earth to avoid radar. Morgan sat in the red-lit cargo bay, checking her gear for the third time. Her rifle was a Barrett M107A1, .50 caliber, capable of punching through engine blocks at 1,000 meters. She'd zeroed it yesterday at the range. 3 shots, 3 hits, all within a 2-inch group. Cole sat across from her, eyes closed, breathing steady. He'd taught her that trick. Don't waste energy on adrenaline. Save it for the work. The crew chief tapped his headset, then held up 5 fingers. 5 minutes. Morgan pulled her balaclava down over her face. The cold hit like a fist when the ramp dropped. The helicopter hovered 3 feet off the snow, rotor wash turning the powder into a white cyclone. Cole went first, dropping into the storm with his pack. Morgan followed. The snow was waist-deep. Her boots punched through the crust, sinking into the soft powder beneath. By the time the helicopter pulled away, her legs were already burning. They were at the top of a ridgeline, 11,000 feet above sea level. The wind cut through her parka like it wasn't there. Morgan adjusted her goggles, scanning the terrain. The valley below was a white void, no visibility past 50 meters. Cole checked his GPS, then pointed northwest. 6 clicks to the hide site. We move now, we'll be in position by 1000 hours. Morgan nodded. She didn't trust her voice yet. The cold made her lungs ache. The first kilometer nearly broke them. What looked like gentle slopes on the satellite imagery turned out to be a maze of hidden crevasses and ice fields. Morgan's boots had crampon attachments, but the snow was too soft in places, too hard in others. She'd take 3 steps forward and slide 2 steps back. Cole moved like a machine, steady and methodical. He'd done this before. Morgan could tell by the way he tested each foothold, the way he scanned for wind-loaded slopes that might avalanche. She tried to match his rhythm, but her pack weighed 70 pounds, and her lungs couldn't process enough oxygen at this altitude. "You good?" Cole called back. "Yeah." The lie came automatically. They pushed through a field of sastrugi, wind-carved ridges of ice that looked like frozen waves. Morgan's shins slammed into the ridges with every step. She'd have bruises tomorrow, if there was a tomorrow. 30 minutes in, Cole stopped at the edge of a crevasse. It was maybe 4 feet wide, dropping into darkness. Morgan could hear water moving somewhere far below. Glacial melt. One wrong step and they'd fall 100 feet into an ice tomb. Cole pulled a coil of rope from his pack. "Clip in." Morgan hooked the carabiner to her harness. Cole went first, jumping the gap with his pack, landing hard on the far side. The ice cracked under his weight, but held. He turned, bracing himself, and nodded. Morgan backed up 3 steps. Her legs were shaking, not from fear, from fatigue. She ran forward and jumped. For one terrible second, she thought she wouldn't make it. Her boots hit the far edge, slipped, and she started to slide backward. Cole's hands shot out, grabbing her wrist, hauling her up. "Thanks," Morgan gasped. Cole just grunted and kept moving. They climbed for another hour. The terrain got steeper. Morgan's thighs burned with every step. Her fingers were going numb inside her gloves despite the chemical hand warmers. She knew the physiology. Her body was pulling blood away from her extremities to protect her core. But knowing didn't make it hurt less. At one point, Morgan looked back. The helicopter landing zone was invisible now, swallowed by distance and weather. They were alone on the mountain, truly alone. Cole stopped at a shelf of rock, breathing hard. He pulled out a water bottle. The water was already slushy with ice crystals. "Drink," he said, handing it to Morgan. "Little sips. Your body's burning through calories just trying to stay warm." Morgan drank. The cold water made her teeth ache, but it helped. She handed the bottle back. 2 more clicks, Cole said. He was looking at the GPS, frowning. "Weather's deteriorating faster than they forecasted. Can we make it?" "We don't have a choice." They moved in silence after that, Cole breaking trail, Morgan following in his tracks. Every 20 minutes they stopped to check bearings and listen. The mountains swallowed sound. No wind noise, no animal calls, just the crunch of their boots and the rasp of their breathing. 2 hours in, Cole stopped. He pointed at a depression in the snow, a natural fighting position sheltered from the wind by a cluster of rocks. "Here, we dig in." Building the hide site took 90 minutes. They carved a trench into the snow, deep enough to get below the wind line, wide enough for 2 shooters side by side. Cole rigged a white tarp overhead, anchored with climbing spikes. From 20 feet away, it looked like another snowdrift. Morgan set up her rifle on the bipod, adjusting the scope. The valley floor was 800 meters below. She could see the road now, a thin line of gray cutting through the white. That's where Volkov would come. Exposed, predictable. "Range cards," Cole said. He was already marking distances with a rangefinder, calling out numbers. "Primary kill zone, 875 meters. Secondary, 920. Wind at 12 knots, gusting to 18. Morgan logged the numbers in her notebook. The cold made her pen skip. She switched to a pencil. "You ever tell me why they call you Ice?" Cole asked. He wasn't looking at her. He was scanning the opposite ridge through his spotting scope. "You never asked." "Asking now." Morgan settled behind the rifle, pressing her cheek against the stock. Iraq. Fallujah. We were running Overwatch on a convoy. RPG hit the lead truck. Driver was on fire, screaming. I had a shot on the insurgent. Clean. 200 meters. You took it? Didn't flinch. Didn't hesitate. Spotter said my hands didn't shake. Said I had ice in my veins. She adjusted the scope elevation. Name stuck. Cole grunted. That's not ice. That's discipline. What's the difference? Ice cracks under pressure. Discipline doesn't. Morgan didn't answer. She watched the valley, counting her heartbeats, feeling the cold seep into her bones. The rifle scope was already fogging at the edges. She wiped it clear with a lens cloth, knowing it would fog again in minutes. Cole pulled a thermos from his pack and poured 2 capfuls of coffee. It was lukewarm by the time it hit Morgan's lips, but it helped. She could feel her core temperature dropping. 30 minutes in the hide, and her fingers were already stiff. Tell me about your daughter, Morgan said. Cole's hands stopped moving. Why? Because we've been working together for 6 months, and you've never mentioned her. He was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was softer. Her name's Sarah, 23, lives in Oregon. We don't talk much. Why not? Because I chose this over her. Every time. He raised the spotting scope again, scanning the road. She got married last year. Didn't invite me. Can't say I blame her. Morgan wanted to say something, but the words felt clumsy, so she said nothing. Just kept her eye on the scope, watching the empty road. The minutes stretched into hours. The cold became a living thing, pressing down on them, seeping into every gap in their clothing. Morgan's toes went numb first, then her fingers. She flexed them inside her gloves, trying to keep the blood moving. At 10:30 hours, Morgan's rifle scope fogged completely. She wiped it with a lens cloth, but condensation had formed inside the tube. She couldn't clear it. Damn it, she muttered. Cole glanced over. Your breath. You're breathing on the scope. I know. I can't help it. Yes, you can. He shifted position, moving closer. Watch. He demonstrated, breathing through his nose, angling his face away from the optic. Slow, controlled breaths that didn't disturb the air around the scope. You're heating the air between your face and the glass, Cole explained. Creates moisture. In this cold, moisture is your enemy. It freezes, fogs lenses, jams bolts. Morgan tried to mimic his technique. It was harder than it looked. Her lungs wanted to gasp, to pull in more oxygen. Slower, Cole said. You're not running a marathon. You're becoming part of the mountain. Morgan slowed her breathing. In through the nose, 6 seconds. Out through the mouth, 6 seconds. The fog on her scope started to clear. Better, Cole said. Now, check your rifle. Make sure the bolt isn't freezing. Morgan pulled the charging handle back. It moved, but it was stiff, sluggish. The lubricant was starting to thicken in the cold. You brought CLP? Cole asked, referring to standard gun oil. Yeah. That'll freeze at 30 below. You need to strip it. Dry fire only in these conditions. Morgan stared at him. You want me to run this rifle dry? No lubricant? Metal on metal is better than frozen metal. Trust me. I learned this the hard way in Norway, 94. My rifle seized up mid-mission because I overlubed it. Morgan hesitated, then nodded. She field-stripped the rifle, wiping down every surface with a dry cloth. It felt wrong, like she was sabotaging her own weapon. But Cole had 30 years of experience. If he said it would work, it would work. While she worked, Cole pulled a small packet from his chest rig. He tore it open with his teeth. Inside was something that looked like beef jerky, but smelled worse. What is that? Morgan asked. Pemmican, Native American survival food. Fat, protein, dried berries. Tastes like shit, but it'll keep your core temperature up. He handed her a piece. She bit into it. He was right. It tasted like shoe leather mixed with rancid butter. but she forced herself to chew, to swallow. Her body needed the calories. "You ever think about retiring?" Morgan asked. Cole laughed. It was a dry, humorless sound. "Every day." "Why don't you?" "Because this is all I know." He stared out at the valley. "I don't have a family waiting for me. Don't have hobbies. Can't imagine sitting on a porch watching the world go by." He paused. "But you should. Get out while you're young, before this life takes everything." "It already has," Morgan said quietly. Cole looked at her, really looked at her. "You still have time to get it back." "I don't." Before Morgan could respond, Cole stiffened. He raised the spotting scope. "Movement. 11 o'clock. 3 vehicles." Morgan swung the rifle left, tracking the convoy. 3 SUVs, armored, moving slow through the snow. The lead vehicle had a gun turret. The second vehicle had tinted windows. "That's our boy," Cole said. He was reading the license plate through the spotting scope. "Middle vehicle. Volkov's in there." Morgan's heartbeat slowed. This was the moment. All the training, all the preparation, compressed into a single trigger pull. She ranged the vehicle. 862 meters. Wind 3 knots left to right. "Send it when ready," Cole said. Morgan's finger curled around the trigger. She controlled her breathing. In through the nose, out through the mouth. The crosshairs settled on the driver's side window of the middle SUV. Then the sky turned white. The storm hit like a freight train. 1 second, Morgan could see the convoy. The next, the world was erased. The wind went from 12 knots to 60 in the span of a breath. Snow blasted horizontally, turning the air into a wall of static. "Abort!" Cole shouted. His voice barely carried over the wind. "We're in a whiteout!" Morgan pulled back from the rifle, blinking against the snow. Her goggles iced over instantly. She ripped them off, but it didn't help. Visibility was 0. She couldn't see Cole, and he was 2 feet away. A new sound cut through the storm. Rotors. "Helicopter!" Morgan yelled. The noise was close, too close. She grabbed her rifle, pulling it into her chest, covering the scope with her body. If they were doing aerial reconnaissance, the sound changed. The rotors stuttered, coughed, then a scream of tortured metal. Cole grabbed her arm. "They're going down!" The helicopter materialized out of the white, 50 meters downslope, spinning out of control. It was a Russian Mi-8 military transport. The tail rotor was gone, sheared off by the wind. The pilot was fighting the cyclic, trying to auto-rotate, but the storm was too strong. The helicopter hit the slope hard. The impact threw a wave of snow into the air. One of the rotor blades snapped off, tumbling past Morgan's position like a scythe. For 10 seconds there was silence. Then the side door kicked open. Men poured out, 6 of them, maybe 8. They were dressed in white winter camo, carrying AK-12 rifles. Spetsnaz. They moved fast, setting up a perimeter around the crash site. One of them was shouting orders. Morgan couldn't hear the words, but she recognized the tone. Authority. Command. Cole pressed his face close to hers. "That's Volkov. He was on the bird." Morgan's brain recalculated. The convoy was a decoy. Volkov had been flying parallel to the road, using the vehicles as bait. Smart, careful. And now he was 70 meters away, surrounded by an 8-man security team. "We need to move," Cole said. "Now." But Morgan was already looking at the terrain. The helicopter had crashed between them and the extraction point. If they moved, they'd be silhouetted against the snow. The Spetsnaz team would see them. "We're pinned," Morgan said. Cole's jaw tightened. "Then we wait for dark." They waited. The storm swallowed them, turning the world into a blur of white and gray. Morgan couldn't see the crashed helicopter anymore, but she could hear them. Voices, the clatter of equipment, a radio squawking in Russian. Cole was scanning with the spotting scope, trying to track movement through the snow. His breath came out in short bursts. His face was red, the skin around his nose turning white. Frostbite. They're spreading out, Cole whispered. Search pattern. They know someone's up here. Morgan's heart sank. How? Tracks. We left a trail coming up the ridge. If they follow it, a dog barked. Morgan's blood went cold. Dogs. They had brought dogs. We move now, Cole said. He was already packing the spotting scope, shoving gear into his ruck. Leave the tarp. Leave anything that slows us down. Morgan broked her rifle, collapsing the bipod, slinging it across her back. Her fingers fumbled with the straps. The cold had stolen her dexterity. She forced herself to slow down, to think through each movement. The dog barked again. Closer. They crawled out of the hide site, staying low, moving perpendicular to the slope. The snow was knee-deep. Every step was a battle. Morgan's legs screamed. Her lungs burned. The cold air felt like broken glass in her throat. Behind them she heard voices, commands in Russian, then a shout. They'd found the hide site. Run, Cole said. They ran, not down the slope. That would be suicide. They'd be visible for hundreds of meters. Instead, they ran along the ridgeline, ducking behind rocks, using the terrain for cover. The storm helped. The visibility was still near zero, but it worked both ways. Morgan couldn't see where she was going. She tripped over a buried log, went down hard, tasted blood. Cole hauled her up. Keep moving! Gunfire cracked behind them. 3-round bursts, AK-12s. The bullets snapped past, invisible in the storm. One round hit a rock 5 feet to Morgan's left, throwing up a spray of ice. They dove behind a boulder. Morgan's radio was clipped to her vest. She keyed the mic. Overwatch, this is Sierra 2-1. We are in contact, requesting immediate exfil. Static. She tried again. Overwatch, how copy? Nothing. Cole grabbed the radio, checked the battery. It was fine. He adjusted the frequency, tried the emergency channel. Still nothing. Jammed, Cole said. His voice was flat, or the storm's blocking it. Morgan felt the weight of it settle over her. They were alone. No backup, no extraction. And somewhere behind them, 8 Spetsnaz operators with dogs were closing in. Cole pulled out his GPS. The screen was cracked. Snow had gotten into the seals. He shook it, tried to power it on. It flickered once, then died. Shit, Cole said. It was the first time Morgan had heard him curse. They pushed through a narrow defile between 2 rock formations. The wind funneled through the gap, strong enough to knock Morgan sideways. She leaned into it, one hand bracing against the rock face. That's when she heard it. A low mechanical sound. Rotors. Drone, Cole hissed. Morgan looked up. Through the swirling snow, she could see it. A small quadcopter, maybe 50 feet overhead. It was hovering, searching. The camera turret swept back and forth. Don't move, Cole whispered. They froze. Morgan pressed herself against the rock, trying to make herself small. The drone drifted closer. 20 feet. 15. She could see the lens now, a black eye staring down at them. Her heart hammered. If the drone marked their position, the entire Spetsnaz team would converge on this location in minutes. The drone hovered. The camera locked onto something. Not them, something else. Then it drifted away, disappearing into the white. Morgan let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. Move, Cole said. They're using tech now. We can't outrun that. They scrambled through the defile and out onto an exposed slope. The wind hit them like a wall. Morgan's pack straps dug into her shoulders. She adjusted them, trying to redistribute the weight. That's when the strap broke. The pack slid sideways, throwing her off balance. She stumbled, caught herself, but the damage was done. Her sleeping bag, compressed into a stuff sack at the bottom of the ruck, tumbled out and disappeared down the slope. No! Morgan lunged for it, but Cole grabbed her arm. Leave it, we keep moving. That's our only sleeping bag. I said leave it. Morgan stared at the spot where the bag had vanished. Without it, they had no way to survive a night in the open. The temperature would drop to 50 below after sunset, maybe colder. But Cole was right. They couldn't stop. They kept moving, angling down the slope now, trying to put distance between themselves and the crash site. The terrain was treacherous. Hidden ice patches lurked under the snow. Morgan's feet went out from under her twice. The second time she slid 30 feet before catching herself on a rock outcrop. Cole was struggling too. His movements were getting slower, more labored. At one point he stopped, hands on his knees, breathing in ragged gasps. "You okay?" Morgan asked. "Fine, just need a second." But Morgan could see the truth. Cole's face was pale, his lips had a bluish tint, and his hands, when he reached for his water bottle, were shaking. "Let me check your core temp," Morgan said. "No time." "Cole!" A shout echoed behind them. Russian. Close. Cole's head snapped up. "They're on our trail. Move! Now!" They ran. Or tried to. Running in waist-deep snow at 11,000 feet was like running through cement. Morgan's lungs screamed for oxygen. Her legs felt like lead. But she pushed through it, following Cole's staggering form through the white. The terrain opened up into a field of boulders, house-sized rocks scattered across the slope like a giant's playground. Cole ducked behind one, pulling Morgan down beside him. "Rest. 60 seconds, he gasped. Morgan nodded, too winded to speak. She checked her rifle. Snow had gotten into the receiver. She cleared it as best she could with numb fingers. That's when she noticed Cole wasn't moving. He was slumped against the rock, eyes half closed. "Cole!" He didn't respond. Morgan grabbed his shoulder, shook him. "Cole!" His eyes opened, slowly, like he was waking from a deep sleep. "Fine," he slurred. "Just cold." Morgan's training kicked in. She recognized the signs. Confusion, slurred speech, lethargy. Stage 2 hypothermia, maybe stage 3. She looked at him, really looked at him. His face was gray, his lips were blue. "How bad?" Morgan asked. "I'm fine." "Cole." He met her eyes. "I'm fine. We move north. Find the exfil point on Terrain Association. It's 12 clicks. We can make it before dark." Morgan wanted to believe him, but the sun was already fading and the temperature was dropping. In 2 hours it would be night. In 4 hours they'd both be hypothermic. Cole started moving. Morgan followed. They pushed through the storm, navigating by instinct and memory. Every few minutes Morgan glanced back. She couldn't see the enemy, but she could hear the dogs. Always the dogs. They'd been moving for an hour when Cole stopped. He was leaning against a tree, breathing hard. His face was gray. "Contact front," he whispered. Morgan dropped to a knee, bringing her rifle up. She couldn't see anything, just snow and shadows. Then movement. 30 meters ahead. 2 men, white camo, moving in a tactical wedge. Spetsnaz. They were sweeping the area, rifles up, heads on a swivel. Cole's hand moved to his sidearm. A Beretta M9. Morgan shook her head. If they fired, every operator in the area would converge on them. The Spetsnaz soldiers moved closer. 20 meters. 15. Morgan held her breath. Her finger rested on the trigger guard. Not yet. Not yet. One of the soldiers stopped. He was looking at the snow. Morgan followed his gaze. Boot prints. Her boot prints. The soldier raised his rifle. He turned, scanning the tree line. Cole moved. 1 step, silent, closing the distance. His knife came out, a K-bar, black blade, 7 inches. He covered the last 5 meters in 3 strides. The soldier didn't have time to shout. Cole's left hand clamped over his mouth. The knife punched into the gap between the man's helmet and body armor, severing the spinal cord. The soldier went limp. The second soldier turned. His eyes went wide. He brought his rifle up. Morgan fired. The suppressed shot was a dull crack, swallowed by the storm. The bullet hit the soldier's center mass, punching through his sternum. He staggered back, trying to raise his weapon. Morgan fired again. This time, the soldier went down. Cole was already moving, dragging the first body into the trees. Morgan grabbed the second. They buried them in the snow, covering the blood with fresh powder. It wouldn't hide the bodies for long, but it might buy them time. Cole was breathing hard, too hard. He doubled over, hands on his knees. "Cole, I'm fine." He straightened up, but Morgan saw the lie. He was pale. His hands were shaking. "How's your core temp?" "I said I'm fine." Morgan grabbed his wrist. Even through the gloves, she could feel it. His skin was cold. Too cold. "You're hypothermic." "Not yet." He pulled his hand away. "We keep moving. We stop. We die." He was right. But Morgan knew the math. In these conditions, hypothermia could kill faster than bullets. Cole was a big man, but he was 58 years old. His metabolism was slowing down, and they'd been in the cold for 6 hours. She checked her watch. 16:45 hours. The sun was gone. The temperature was dropping fast. 40 below. Maybe 45. And they still had 10 clicks to go. Morgan pulled Cole to his feet. He swayed, almost fell. She caught him, shouldering his weight. "We need to find shelter," Morgan said. "You're hypothermic." Fine," Cole mumbled, but his eyes were unfocused, glassy. Morgan looked around. The boulder field offered some concealment, but no protection from the wind, and the enemy was close. She could hear them moving through the snow, calling to each other in Russian. The dogs were barking, excited. They had the scent. She made a decision. "We go down, into the tree line. Harder for the dogs to track us there." Cole nodded, or maybe he was just shivering. Morgan couldn't tell anymore. They moved down slope, using gravity to help. Morgan kept one hand on Cole's arm, steadying him. He stumbled every few steps. His breathing was shallow, rapid. Classic shock response. The slope got steeper. The snow gave way to ice. Morgan's boots skidded. She caught herself on a rock, but Cole wasn't as lucky. His feet went out from under him. He slid 10 feet before Morgan grabbed his pack, arresting his fall. "Stay with me," Morgan said. "Cole, look at me. Stay with me." His eyes met hers. For a moment there was clarity there. Recognition. "I'm trying," he whispered. They reached the tree line just as full dark hit. The pines were thick here, their branches heavy with snow. It blocked some of the wind. Not much, but some. Morgan found a fallen log and pulled Cole behind it. She stripped off her outer gloves, pulled out her first aid kit. Her fingers were stiff. It took 3 tries to open the zipper. Inside was an emergency blanket, basically tinfoil wrapped in plastic. She tore it open, wrapped it around Cole's shoulders. It would reflect some of his body heat back. Maybe enough to keep him alive. "I need you to drink," Morgan said. She pulled out her water bottle. The water was still liquid, barely. She held it to Cole's lips. He drank. 2 sips, then turned his head away. "More," Morgan insisted. "Can't. Gonna be sick." Morgan knew that feeling. Hypothermia messed with your stomach, made you nauseous. But Cole needed fluids. His body was dehydrating, burning through resources, trying to stay warm. Behind them, maybe 300 meters upslope, she heard voices. Shouts. The Spetsnaz team was close. Morgan checked her rifle. 3 magazines left, 60 rounds. Not enough for a sustained firefight. And in these conditions, at night, accuracy would be a crapshoot. She looked at Cole. His eyes were closed. His breathing had evened out. That was bad. That meant his body was shutting down, conserving energy for vital organs. "Cole, hey!" She shook him. "Stay awake. You sleep now, you don't wake up." His eyes cracked open. "Tired." "I know, but you don't get to quit. Not yet." He smiled. It was weak, sad. "You sound like Sarah." "Your daughter?" "Yeah." His voice was distant, dreamy. She used to say that when I'd come home from deployment. Dad, you don't get to quit, smart kid. Tell me about her, Morgan said. She needed to keep him talking, keep him engaged. She's stubborn, like her mom. Got into Stanford, full ride, wanted to be a doctor. His eyes drifted closed again. I missed her graduation. Was in Syria. Didn't even call. Cole, open your eyes. He didn't respond. Morgan felt panic rising. She grabbed his face, forced him to look at her. Cole Harrington, you do not die on me, you understand? We're getting out of here, both of us. He blinked, slow, like he was processing her words from very far away. Okay, he whispered. Morgan knew they couldn't stay here. The enemy would find them by dawn, maybe sooner if the dogs picked up their scent. She pulled out the radio again, tried the emergency frequency. Still static, but there was something else. A faint carrier wave, like someone was transmitting but the signal was too weak to resolve. She adjusted the frequency, tried again. 2-1, this is Overwatch, how copy? Morgan's heart leaped. She keyed the mic. Overwatch, this is Sierra 2-1. We are in contact, requesting immediate extraction. Over. Static. Then, Sierra 2-1. Weather. Cannot. Repeat, cannot extract. 48 hours. The signal broke up. Morgan tried again. Say again, you're breaking up. Storm system. Grounded. All assets. Hold position. 72 hours. 72 hours. 3 days. Morgan stared at the radio. 3 days in this cold, with Cole hypothermic, with the enemy hunting them. Negative, Morgan said into the radio. Her voice was steel. We need exfil now. We have wounded. We cannot hold for 72 hours. Sorry, weather, no choice. Good luck. The signal died. Morgan tried to raise them again. Nothing, just static. She lowered the radio, looked at Cole. He was watching her. There was understanding in his eyes. We're on our own, he said. Yeah. How bad? Morgan didn't sugarcoat it. We need shelter, real shelter, and fire. If we don't get warm in the next few hours, you're going to die. Cole nodded slowly. What about you? I'm fine. Liar. He was right. Morgan could feel it now. The numbness creeping into her fingers. The way her thoughts were getting sluggish. She was maybe 6 hours behind Cole, but she'd get there. Hypothermia was patient. It waited for everyone. There's a cabin, Cole said, maybe 2 clicks west. Old hunting lodge. Norwegian built it in the 70s. Might still be standing. How do you know about it? Came through here in 97. Different op. We used it as a staging point. His eyes focused. It's on the map. Grid 479328. Morgan didn't have a map. The GPS was dead. But she had a compass. And 2 clicks west was doable. If they didn't run into the enemy, if the cabin was still there, if it wasn't already occupied. A lot of ifs. Can you walk? Morgan asked. Cole pushed himself up. His legs shook, but he stayed upright. I can walk. They moved through the trees like ghosts, slow, quiet. Every 50 meters, Morgan stopped to listen. The forest was alive with sound, wind through the branches, snow sliding off pine boughs, and somewhere behind them, the dogs. Always the dogs. Cole was moving on instinct now. His body knew how to patrol even when his mind was fading. He kept his rifle up, scanning sectors, but Morgan could see the way his hands trembled, the way he blinked, trying to clear his vision. They'd been moving for 30 minutes when Morgan saw it, a shape in the snow. Wrong shape, too angular. She raised her fist. Stop. Cole froze. Morgan crept forward, rifle up. The shape resolved. It was a body, frozen solid. The corpse was dressed in winter camo, American pattern. The name tape on the chest read, Torres. Oh God, Morgan whispered. There were 3 more bodies, all American, all frozen in positions of combat. One soldier was still clutching a radio. Another had his rifle aimed at the trees, trigger finger frozen to the metal. They were ambushed, Cole said. His voice was clearer now. The shock of seeing dead Americans had cut through the hypothermia fog. Look at the positions. They were moving in a wedge, got hit from the flank. Morgan examined the bodies. No visible wounds, no blood in the snow. They froze to death, Morgan said. Cole nodded. Probably got separated from their unit, tried to make it back. Weather got them. Morgan checked the corpses for supplies. One soldier had half a protein bar in his pocket. Another had a lighter. The fuel was frozen solid, useless. She took the protein bar, left the rest. How long have they been here? Morgan asked. Cole studied the bodies. Weeks, maybe months. Hard to tell in this cold. Morgan felt a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. These were professionals, trained soldiers, and they died out here, just like Morgan and Cole might. We keep moving, Cole said. They left the bodies behind. But the image stayed with Morgan. The way Torres's face was frozen in a scream. The way the ice had turned his eyes white. That could be us, Morgan thought. That will be us if we don't find shelter. They'd been walking for another 20 minutes when the ground dropped out from under them. Morgan felt it first, a vibration, then a sound like thunder. The snow beneath their feet shifted, cracked. Avalanche, Cole shouted. They ran. The slope was moving now, a river of white pouring down the mountain. Morgan's legs pumped. Her lungs screamed. Behind her, the roar got louder. A tree appeared in front of her. She grabbed it, wrapping her arms around the trunk. Cole slammed into her a second later. They held on as the avalanche swept past, a wall of snow and debris that would have buried them alive. For 30 seconds, the world was white chaos. Then silence. Morgan let go of the tree. Her arms were shaking. She looked at Cole. He was covered in snow, his face pale. "You okay?" she gasped. He didn't answer, just stared back up the slope. Morgan followed his gaze. The avalanche had carved a path 20 feet wide. Trees were snapped like matchsticks. Rocks the size of cars had been torn from the mountain and scattered like pebbles. And in the middle of the destruction, maybe 100 meters upslope, she saw movement. Dark shapes against the white. The Spetsnaz team. They'd been caught in the avalanche too, but they'd survived. Morgan counted 4 figures, maybe 5. They were digging themselves out, weapons still in hand. One of them looked down the slope, looked right at Morgan. "Run," Cole said. They ran. Morgan didn't know how long they ran. Minutes, hours, time lost meaning. There was only the burn in her legs, the fire in her lungs, the white landscape blurring past. When they finally stopped, it was because Cole couldn't go any further. He collapsed behind a boulder, gasping. His face was gray, his lips were blue-black. "I'm done," he whispered. No, you're not." Morgan grabbed his shoulders. "The cabin, how much further?" Cole's eyes rolled back. He was passing out. Morgan slapped him. Hard. "Cole, how far?" His eyes focused, barely. "Half a click, maybe less, due west." "Can you make it?" He didn't answer, just closed his eyes. Morgan looked at him, really looked at him. He was a big man, 58 years old but built like a linebacker. There was no way she could carry him, not in this snow, not in her condition. She had 2 choices, leave him here and go for help, or stay with him and hope they both live long enough for rescue. Neither was a good option. Morgan made a decision. She pulled out her knife and cut a branch from a nearby pine, stripped off the smaller branches until she had a walking stick. Then she hauled Cole to his feet. "You're going to walk," she said. "I'm going to help you, but you have to walk." Cole swayed. His eyes were glassy, but he nodded. They walked. Morgan on one side, the stick on the other, Cole in the middle. It was slow, agonizing. Every 10 steps, Cole stumbled. Every 20 steps, he stopped to catch his breath. Morgan checked her compass. Due west. Half a click. 500 meters. She could see it on the map in her head. 500 meters in these conditions might as well be 500 miles. But they walked anyway. Cole started talking around the 400-meter mark. "Sarah," he said. "Sarah, I'm sorry." Morgan glanced at him. His eyes were open, but he wasn't seeing her. He was seeing something else. Someone else. "I should have been there," Cole continued. His voice was slurred. "Should have walked you down the aisle. Should have met him. Your husband. What's his name? I can't remember his name." "Cole," Morgan said gently. "That's not Sarah. That's me." "Morgan." He didn't hear her. "I know I wasn't a good father. I know that. But I tried. I tried to keep you safe. Kept the world safe for you. That's what I told myself. All those missions. All those nights away. I was making the world safe for you." His voice cracked. Morgan felt her throat tighten. "But you didn't need the world to be safe," Cole whispered. "You needed your dad. And I wasn't there." "Cole." "I'm sorry, baby. I'm so sorry." He was crying now, tears freezing on his cheeks. Morgan pulled him closer, supporting more of his weight. "It's okay," she said. "It's okay, Cole. She forgives you." "You think so?" "I know so." He smiled. Then his legs gave out. Morgan tried to hold him up, but he was too heavy. They both went down into the snow. Cole landed on his back, staring up at the sky. "Can't," he gasped. "Can't do it." "Yes, you can. Get up. Leave me. Get to the cabin. Come back with help." "I'm not leaving you." "That's an order, Staff Sergeant." Morgan looked at him. His eyes were clear now, focused. This was Cole, the real Cole, breaking through the hypothermia fog for one last moment of clarity. "I said that's an order," he repeated. "You leave me. You get to safety. Then you come back. That's how we both survive." Morgan wanted to argue, but she knew he was right. If she stayed, they'd both die. If she went for help, there was a chance. A small chance, but a chance. She pulled off her outer parka, wrapped it around Cole. It would buy him maybe an hour, maybe less. "I'll be back," she said. "I promise." Cole nodded. "I know you will. You're ice. You don't crack under pressure." Morgan stood. It took everything she had. Her legs didn't want to support her anymore, but she forced them to move. She walked away, didn't look back. If she looked back, she'd stay, and if she stayed, they'd both die. Morgan found the cabin 12 minutes later. It was smaller than she'd imagined. Just a single room, maybe 15 feet by 15 feet. The walls were rough-hewn logs, dark with age. The roof was corrugated metal, half collapsed on one side. But there was smoke coming from the chimney. Someone was inside. Morgan dropped to a crouch, bringing her rifle up. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold it steady. She scanned the area. No tracks in the snow, no guards posted outside. Whoever was in there thought they were safe. She crept closer. There was a window covered with plastic sheeting. She peered through a gap. 3 men inside, maybe 4. It was hard to see through the condensation. They were dressed in winter camo. Russian. Spetsnaz. They had a fire going in a wood stove. They were sitting around it, warming their hands. And in the corner, wrapped in a sleeping bag, was Volkov, Morgan's target. The reason for this entire nightmare. He was right there, 20 feet away, vulnerable. But she was outnumbered, outgunned, and hypothermic. She could wait. Try to pick them off one by one when they came outside. But she didn't have time. Cole didn't have time. He had an hour, maybe less, which meant she had to go in, had to fight, had to win, against 4 men in close quarters. Morgan checked her rifle, 1 magazine in the weapon, 2 more on her vest, 60 rounds total. She had a knife on her belt, a Beretta on her hip. Not enough, but it would have to be. She backed away from the window, moving around to the door. Her finger found the trigger. Her breathing slowed, steadied. This was it, the moment. Everything came down to the next 60 seconds. Morgan said a prayer, not to God. She'd lost faith in God a long time ago. She prayed to whoever was watching over soldiers, the ghost of every grunt who'd ever died in the cold, the spirits of Torres and his team frozen in the forest. She prayed for the strength to do what needed to be done. Then she kicked the door open and went to work. The first man died before he could stand. Morgan put 2 rounds center mass. He went down hard. The second man was faster. He brought his rifle up. Morgan shot him in the throat. Blood sprayed across the wall. The third man dove for cover behind the wood stove. Morgan tracked him, fired twice. 1 round hit the stove, sparking. The other hit the man in the shoulder. He screamed. The fourth man, Volkov's personal bodyguard, was the fastest. He had his pistol out and was firing before Morgan could adjust. The first round missed. The second caught her in the vest, knocked the wind out of her. Morgan went down. Her rifle clattered away. The bodyguard advanced, pistol aimed at her head. Morgan's hand found her knife. She threw it. Not a good throw, not balanced, but close enough. The blade hit the bodyguard in the face, cutting his cheek open. He staggered back. Morgan lunged, grabbing his pistol hand. They grappled. He was stronger, bigger. But Morgan was desperate. She bit his wrist, tasted blood. He screamed, dropped the pistol. They went down together, rolling across the floor. Morgan's hand found a piece of firewood. She swung it, hit him in the temple. Once, twice, 3 times. He stopped moving. Morgan rolled off him, gasping. Her chest felt like someone had hit her with a sledgehammer. She looked down. The vest had caught the round. But she'd have a bruise the size of a dinner plate. Movement. The third man, the one she'd hit in the shoulder, was trying to reach his rifle. Morgan grabbed her Beretta from the floor where it had fallen. Shot him twice. He stopped moving. Silence. Morgan looked around. 4 bodies, blood on the walls, the fire still crackling in the stove. And in the corner, Volkov was staring at her with wide eyes. "Don't move," Morgan said. Her voice was a rasp. Volkov raised his hands. "American?" "Yeah." "You came to kill me?" "Yeah." He nodded slowly, like he'd expected this. "Then do it." Morgan aimed the pistol at his head. Her finger curled around the trigger, but she didn't fire. Because she needed him. Needed his satellite phone, his radio, his connections. If she killed him now, she'd never get Cole out alive. "I'm not going to kill you," Morgan said. "Not yet. First, you're going to help me save my partner." Volkov smiled. It was a cold smile, calculating. "And if I refuse? Then I shoot you in the kneecaps and leave you to freeze. Your choice." Volkov studied her, then nodded. "Very well, what do you need?" Morgan used Volkov's satellite phone to call in a medevac. But the response was the same. Storm too severe. No flights for 48 hours minimum, which meant she had to get Cole herself. She stripped one of the dead Spetsnaz of his parka, warmer than hers, and his night vision goggles, took extra ammunition, took a medical kit with IV fluids. Then she turned to Volkov. "You're coming with me." "Why?" "Because if I leave you here, you'll call your people, and I can't have that." She zip-tied his hands in front of him, then pushed him out the door. The walk back to Cole took forever. Morgan's legs were like concrete. Every step was agony, but she pushed through it. She had to. Volkov stumbled along behind her, cursing in Russian. "Shut up," Morgan said. "You're going to die out here," Volkov said. "Both of you." "Maybe, but you're dying first." That shut him up. They found Cole where she'd left him. He was still breathing, barely. His lips were black now. Frostbite. Bad frostbite. Morgan knelt beside him, checking his pulse. 40 beats per minute. Too slow. His body was shutting down. She pulled out the IV kit. Her hands were shaking so badly she almost couldn't get the needle in, but she managed. Started fluids running into his arm. Warmed saline. It might help, might not, but it was all she had. "Help me lift him," Morgan said to Volkov. "No." Morgan pointed the pistol at him. "I wasn't asking." Volkov sighed. Together they got Cole to his feet. He was dead weight, unconscious. Morgan supported one side, Volkov the other. They dragged him back to the cabin, inch by inch, step by step. It took 90 minutes. By the time they got there, Morgan couldn't feel her hands anymore, couldn't feel her feet. The world was narrowing to a tunnel, gray at the edges. She was running out of time. They got Cole inside, laid him by the fire. Morgan stripped off his wet clothes, wrapped him in dry blankets, fed the fire until it was roaring. Then she collapsed. She didn't remember closing her eyes, but when she opened them again, the fire was down to embers, and Volkov was sitting across from her, his bound hands resting on his knees. "How long was I out?" Morgan asked. 30 minutes, Volkov said. "Maybe 40. You were hypothermic. I kept the fire going." Morgan stared at him. "Why?" "Because if you die, I die. The storm is too severe to travel. We need each other to survive the next 2 days." Morgan looked at Cole. His color was better. His breathing had evened out. He might make it. "Temporary truce?" Volkov asked. Morgan thought about it. Thought about all the people Volkov had hurt. All the bioweapons he'd sold. All the deaths on his hands. But right now she needed him. "Temporary truce," Morgan agreed. Volkov smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. Smart girl. Morgan didn't trust him, not for a second, but she was too tired to care. She closed her eyes and let the warmth of the fire pull her under. Tomorrow, they'd figure out how to survive. Tonight, they just had to make it through. Morgan woke to the sound of wind howling through gaps in the cabin walls. The fire had burned low again. She fed it more wood, watching the flames catch and grow. Cole was still unconscious, but his breathing was steady. His color was better. The frostbite on his lips had stopped spreading. Small victories. Volkov was watching her from across the room. His hands were still zip-tied, but he'd managed to position himself closer to the door. Not close enough to run, but close enough to be a problem. "You should sleep more," Volkov said. His English was good, almost no accent. "You were hypothermic. Your body needs rest." "I'm fine." "You're lying. I can see it in your eyes. The confusion, the way you keep blinking, trying to focus. Stage 2 hypothermia, maybe early stage 3. Morgan didn't respond. He was right, but she wasn't going to admit it. "How long have you been a sniper?" Volkov asked. "Why do you care?" "Conversation. We have 48 hours in this cabin together. We can spend it in silence, or we can talk like civilized people." Morgan checked Cole's pulse again, still steady. She adjusted his blankets, then turned back to Volkov. 6 years, she said. "You're good. I watched you take down my security team. Very efficient, very cold." "That's why they call me Ice," Volkov smiled. "No, they call you Ice because you don't let emotion interfere with the mission. That's a rare quality. Most soldiers, they hesitate, they think. You just act. You sound like you approve." "I do. In another life, you would have made an excellent operative for my organization." Morgan stared at him. "I would never work for someone like you." "Someone like me," Volkov repeated. "You mean a criminal? A monster?" He shifted position, wincing. His shoulder was stiff from where she'd shot his bodyguard near him. "Let me tell you something, Staff Sergeant. The world is not divided into good people and bad people. It's divided into people who are honest about what they do and people who lie to themselves." "That's bullshit philosophy." "Is it? Tell me, why did you join the military?" Morgan didn't answer. "Let me guess," Volkov continued. "To serve your country, to protect freedom, to make the world a better place. Noble reasons. But at the end of the day, you kill people for money. The US government pays you a salary, and you put bullets in whoever they tell you to. How is that different from what I do? I don't sell bioweapons to terrorists. No, you just drop bombs on them. And sometimes those bombs hit hospitals, schools, weddings. But it's okay because your government says it's okay, because you're the good guys. Morgan felt anger rising. We don't target civilians. Collateral damage, that's what you call it, yes? A nice phrase, very clean, very American. But the children are still dead. Morgan's hands clenched. She wanted to hit him, wanted to put a bullet in his smug face. But she needed him to keep the fire going while she slept, needed him as a bargaining chip if the enemy came. You don't know anything about me, Morgan said. I know enough. I know you're good at your job. I know you care about your partner. I know you're conflicted about what you do. Volkov leaned forward. I know because I see it in your eyes. The doubt, the guilt. You tell yourself you're doing the right thing, but late at night, when you close your eyes, you see their faces. The people you've killed. Shut up. How many, I wonder? 10? 20? How many lives have you taken in the name of freedom? Morgan stood up, grabbed her pistol, pointed it at Volkov's head. I said, shut up. Volkov didn't flinch. Go ahead, pull the trigger. It won't change what you are. Morgan's finger tightened on the trigger. 1 pound of pressure. That's all it would take. 1 pound and Volkov would be dead. But behind her, Cole stirred, coughed. Morgan lowered the pistol, turned away from Volkov, went to check on Cole. That's what I thought, Volkov said quietly. At 0300 hours, Cole started seizing. His body went rigid, his back arched. His teeth clenched so hard Morgan heard them crack. She grabbed him, trying to hold him still, but he was thrashing, violent, uncontrolled. Volkov, Morgan shouted, help me! Volkov hesitated, then he moved, kneeling beside Cole. Together they held him down. Cole's eyes rolled back in his head. Foam appeared at the corners of his mouth. He's aspirating, Volkov said. Turn him on his side. They rolled Cole onto his side. He vomited. Clear fluid mixed with bile. His body kept convulsing. Morgan had seen seizures before, in training, in combat, but never like this, never this violent. It's the hypothermia, Volkov said. His core temperature is still too low. His brain is misfiring. How do we stop it? We don't. We wait, and we hope his brain doesn't hemorrhage. The seizure lasted 90 seconds. It felt like 90 hours. When it finally stopped, Cole went limp. His breathing was shallow, irregular. Morgan checked his pulse. It was there, but weak, thready. He's dying, she whispered. Volkov didn't argue. How much medical training do you have? Basic combat lifesaver. I can treat gunshot wounds, dress burns, but this, she looked at Cole, this is beyond me. Then you need to get him to a hospital, real hospital, not a field station. The storm will kill him if you wait. You need to call for emergency extraction, now. Morgan grabbed Volkov's satellite phone, dialed the emergency number. It rang 4 times, then a voice answered. This is Sierra 2-1, Morgan said. I have a medical emergency. My partner is in critical condition. Hypothermia with seizures. I need immediate medevac. Stand by. Morgan waited, counted her heartbeats, watched Cole's chest rise and fall. The voice came back. Sierra 2-1, we have a Pavehawk inbound to your location. ETA 40 minutes, but weather is marginal. Pilot will attempt 1 pass. If he can't land, you're on your own until the storm clears. Copy. I'll mark the LZ with infrared strobe. Good luck. The line went dead. Morgan looked at Volkov. 40 minutes. He might not have 40 minutes. Morgan knew that. She grabbed the medical kit, found ampules of epinephrine. She'd never administered epi before, but she'd seen it done. She loaded a syringe, found a vein in Cole's arm, pushed the plunger. Cole's body jerked. His eyes flew open. He gasped, sucking in air. "Cole!" Morgan grabbed his hand. "Stay with me. Help is coming." His eyes found hers. There was confusion there. Fear. "Where?" His voice was barely a whisper. "Where am I?" "You're safe. You're in a cabin. There's a medevac coming. You're going to be okay." Cole's hand tightened around hers. "Sarah, I need to tell Sarah." "You'll tell her yourself, when you see her." "No, listen." He coughed. Blood flecked his lips. Tell her I'm sorry. Tell her I love her. Tell her." His eyes closed. "Cole!" Morgan shook him. "Cole, don't you fucking quit on me." No response. Morgan checked his pulse. Still there, but fading. She started CPR. Chest compressions. 30 of them. Then 2 breaths. Then 30 more compressions. She lost count, just kept going. Pumping his chest. Breathing for him. Refusing to let him die. Volkov watched in silence. Finally, he spoke. "Morgan, he's gone." "No." "You're just breaking his ribs. He's gone." "I said no." Morgan kept going, kept pushing, kept breathing. And then, a miracle. Cole gasped. His chest rose on its own. His eyes fluttered. He was breathing. Morgan collapsed beside him, sobbing. She didn't care that Volkov saw, didn't care that she was breaking protocol. She'd almost lost Cole, almost watched him die, but he was alive. For now. While they waited for the helicopter, Volkov spoke. "I had a daughter," he said quietly. "Her name was Katerina. She was 7 years old when she died." Morgan looked at him. She didn't want to hear this, didn't want to humanize the monster, but she listened anyway. "It was leukemia," Volkov continued. "Childhood leukemia, very aggressive. The doctors in Russia, they tried, but the treatments were expensive. My salary as an FSB officer, it wasn't enough. Not for the experimental drugs, not for the specialists." He stared at the fire. "So I made a deal. I sold information to a Western pharmaceutical company. Nothing critical, just enough. They paid me, I paid the doctors. Katerina got her treatments." "Did she survive?" Morgan asked. "For 6 months. Then the cancer came back. Worse than before. By then I had already crossed too many lines. Made too many deals. I couldn't stop. The money was good. The power was better. And Katerina died in my arms, asking why Papa couldn't save her." Volkov's voice cracked. "So I became what I am, because it was easier than living with what I'd done. Easier to be the monster than to admit I'd failed." Morgan didn't know what to say. Part of her wanted to tell him she didn't care, that his sob story didn't excuse selling bioweapons, that dead children justified nothing. But another part of her understood. She'd seen good people make bad choices, seen lines get crossed 1 inch at a time, seen the monster hiding in every soldier's heart. "Why are you telling me this?" Morgan asked. "Because in 40 minutes, a helicopter will take your partner away, and you will have a choice. You can take me prisoner, put me in a cell, let your government parade me in front of cameras, or you can let me go." "You're insane." "Maybe, but think about it. If you capture me, you'll be a hero for a day. They'll pin a medal on your chest, give you a promotion, and 6 months later, you'll be back out here, freezing your ass off, hunting some other monster." Volkov leaned forward. "But if you let me go, I disappear. I walk away from this life. I use my money, my connections, and I vanish. You never hear from me again." "And I'm supposed to believe that?" "No, but you're supposed to consider it. Because right now, you're thinking about your partner, about Cole, about whether he'll survive the flight, about whether you'll ever get him home to his daughter. And you're wondering if turning me in is worth it." Morgan stared at him. "You're a monster. Yes, but I'm a monster who kept your partner alive tonight. I'm a monster who helped you when I could have let you die. And I'm a monster who is offering you a way out. Before Morgan could respond, she heard it, the distant thump of rotors. The helicopter was coming. The Pavehawk came in low, its spotlight cutting through the storm. Morgan ran outside, waving the infrared strobe. The pilot saw her, circled once, then came in for landing. The rotor wash was like a hurricane. Snow blasted Morgan's face. She ducked, running toward the bird. A paramedic jumped out. "Where's the patient?" "Inside." They ran into the cabin. The paramedic took one look at Cole and started barking orders. Within 2 minutes, Cole was on a stretcher, IV lines running, oxygen mask on his face. "We need to move now," the paramedic shouted. "Weather's deteriorating." Morgan helped carry the stretcher. They loaded Cole into the helicopter. The paramedic climbed in after him. "You coming?" the crew chief shouted to Morgan. Morgan looked back at the cabin. Volkov was standing in the doorway, hands still zip-tied, watching, waiting. She could turn him in, end this now. Volkov would face justice, American justice. He'd spend the rest of his life in a cell. Or she could walk away. "Staff Sergeant," the crew chief shouted. "We need to go." Morgan made her decision. She pulled out her knife, walked back to the cabin. Volkov's eyes widened. Morgan cut his zip ties. "Go," she said. Volkov stared at her. "Why?" "Because my partner is more important than you. Because I'm tired of hunting ghosts. Because," she paused, "because maybe you're right. Maybe we're not that different." Volkov nodded slowly. "Thank you." "Don't thank me, just disappear. If I ever see you again, I'll kill you myself." "Fair enough." Morgan turned and ran back to the helicopter. The crew chief pulled her aboard. The pilot didn't wait. The Pavehawk lifted off, banking hard into the storm. Morgan looked out the window. Volkov was a small figure now, standing in the snow, watching them go. Then the storm swallowed him, and he was gone. They were 10 minutes into the flight when the pilot's voice came over the intercom. "Staff Sergeant, we're picking up radio traffic. Russian military frequency. They're looking for someone." Morgan's blood went cold. "Who?" "Stand by." The pilot switched to a different frequency. Russian voices filled the cabin. Morgan didn't speak Russian, but she recognized certain words. American. Sniper. Kill. "They're organizing a search party," the pilot said. "Big one. At least 20 operators. They're converging on the cabin." Morgan looked at the paramedic. "How's Cole?" "Stable, but critical. We need to get him to a hospital." "Can we outrun them?" The pilot laughed. It was a grim sound. "Staff Sergeant, we're in a Pavehawk doing 160 knots in zero visibility. They're on foot in a blizzard. We'll be at the hospital before they find the cabin." Morgan nodded, but her mind was racing. Volkov. She'd let him go, given him a head start. But 20 Spetsnaz operators were about to descend on that cabin. She just sent him to his death. Or maybe he'd escape. Maybe he was already gone, running through the storm, using every trick he knew to disappear. Morgan would never know. The helicopter punched through the storm clouds. Suddenly the world opened up. Clear sky, stars, and in the distance, the lights of a city, civilization. Morgan looked at Cole. The paramedic had him intubated now, machines beeping, monitors flashing. But he was breathing. His heart was beating. He was alive. That's all that mattered. The rest, Volkov, the mission, the questions about right and wrong, could wait. For now they were going home. The hospital at Ramstein Air Base smelled like disinfectant and burned coffee. Morgan sat in a plastic chair outside the surgical wing, still wearing her blood-stained fatigues. A nurse had tried to get her to change. Morgan had ignored her. She'd been sitting for 6 hours. No word, no updates, just the tick of the wall clock and the squeak of shoes on linoleum. A doctor finally emerged at 0800 hours. He was young, maybe 30, with tired eyes and surgical scrubs still damp with sweat. Staff Sergeant Reeves? Morgan stood. How is he? Master Sergeant Harrington is stable. We had to amputate 3 toes on his left foot. The frostbite was too severe. We also removed necrotic tissue from his fingers, but we saved the hands. He'll have full dexterity once he heals. Morgan felt her knees go weak. She sat back down. Can I see him? He's in recovery, sedated, but you can sit with him if you'd like. Morgan followed the doctor through 2 sets of doors. Cole was in a bed, surrounded by machines. His left foot was wrapped in bandages. His hands were covered in gauze. An oxygen tube ran to his nose, but he was breathing, and his color was good. Morgan pulled a chair close to the bed. She took his bandaged hand in hers. Carefully, gently. You made it, she whispered. You stubborn bastard, you made it. Cole's eyes didn't open, but his fingers twitched, just slightly, like he'd heard her. Morgan sat with him for 2 hours. Didn't speak, didn't move, just held his hand and watched the monitors. At 1000 hours, a colonel appeared in the doorway. He was tall, gray-haired, with the kind of face that had seen too many wars. Staff Sergeant Reeves, I'm Colonel Hayes. We need to talk. The debriefing room was small and windowless. Just a table, 3 chairs, and a recording device. Hayes sat across from Morgan. A female captain, JAG officer based on her uniform, sat beside him. This is Captain Ortiz, Hayes said. She's here to ensure everything stays by the book. You're not under investigation, but we need to understand what happened out there. Morgan nodded. Her throat was dry. Where do you want me to start? The mission objective. General Alexei Volkov. You were inserted to eliminate him. Yes, sir. Did you complete the mission? Morgan hesitated. This was it, the moment of truth. She could lie, say Volkov died in the cabin, say she killed him with the others. No one would ever know, but Cole would know, and Morgan would know. No, sir, I did not complete the mission. Hayes's expression didn't change. Explain. Morgan told him everything. The whiteout storm, the helicopter crash, Cole's hypothermia, the running battle with Spetsnaz, the cabin, the firefight, and the choice she'd made. When she finished, Hayes was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke. You let him go. Yes, sir. Do you understand the implications? Volkov is responsible for selling bioweapons to terrorist organizations. Weapons that could kill thousands, millions, and you let him walk away. I made a tactical decision. My partner was dying. The enemy was closing in. Volkov helped keep Cole alive. In exchange, I gave him a head start. That wasn't your call to make, Hayes said. His voice was hard, angry. You had orders. You disobeyed them. Morgan met his eyes. With respect, sir, my orders were to eliminate Volkov, but my first duty is to my team, to my partner, and I chose to save Cole's life. Captain Ortiz leaned forward. Staff Sergeant, did General Volkov offer you anything in exchange for his release? Money? Information? No, ma'am. Did he threaten you? No, ma'am. Then why did you let him go? Morgan thought about that, about Volkov's story, about his daughter, about the look in his eyes when he talked about failure and guilt. Because he's a monster, Morgan said. But he's a monster who used to be a man, and I couldn't kill him when he just helped save my partner's life. Maybe that makes me weak. Maybe it makes me a bad soldier, but it's the truth. Hayes and Ortiz exchanged a look. Some silent communication passed between them. Staff Sergeant, Hayes said, as of this moment, you are relieved of duty pending a full investigation. You will surrender your weapon and remain on base until further notice. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Morgan unholstered her Beretta, placed it on the table. Her hands didn't shake. She'd known this was coming. Hayes stood. Dismissed. Morgan left the room. In the hallway, she leaned against the wall and closed her eyes. It was over. Her career was over. Everything she'd worked for, gone. But Cole was alive, and somehow that was enough. 3 days later, Morgan was sitting in her barracks when someone knocked. She opened the door to find a woman standing there. Mid-20s, brown hair, green eyes. She was holding a bouquet of flowers. "Are you Morgan Reeves?" the woman asked. "Yes." "I'm Sarah, Sarah Harrington, Cole's daughter." Morgan's breath caught. She'd seen photos of Sarah in Cole's wallet, but in person, she looked so much like her father. Same jawline, same steady eyes. "Come in," Morgan said. Sarah stepped inside. She looked around the sparse room. Military-issue furniture, a duffel bag in the corner, nothing personal on the walls. "I wanted to thank you," Sarah said. "The doctors told me what you did, how you saved my dad's life." "I was just doing my job." "No, you weren't," Sarah's voice cracked. "They told me he was hypothermic, that he had seizures, that he should have died. But you wouldn't let him. You carried him. You brought him back. You—" She stopped, wiping her eyes. "You gave me my father back." Morgan didn't know what to say, so she said nothing, just stood there, feeling the weight of Sarah's gratitude like a physical thing. "Can I ask you something?" Sarah said. "Of course. Did he talk about me? Out there, I mean, when he was dying." Morgan thought about Cole's hallucination, the way he'd mistaken Morgan for Sarah, the apologies, the regrets. "He did," Morgan said softly. "He talked about how smart you are, how stubborn. He talked about missing your graduation, about not being there when you needed him." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "He sent me a letter from the hospital, first time he's written to me in 3 years. He said he was sorry, that he'd wasted too much of his life chasing ghosts, that he wanted another chance." "Are you going to give it to him?" Sarah was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded. "Yeah, I think I am. Life's too short to hold grudges. And he almost died out there. We both almost lost that chance." She handed Morgan the flowers. "These are for you, not because you saved his life, but because you gave him a reason to want to come back. Thank you." Sarah turned and left. Morgan stood in the doorway, holding the flowers, watching her go. For the first time in days, Morgan smiled. 2 days later, Morgan drove to Virginia. The address was in a suburb of Arlington. Nice neighborhood, tree-lined streets, kids playing basketball in driveways. The house was a modest ranch style, with a well-kept lawn and an American flag hanging by the front door. Morgan parked at the curb, sat in the car for 5 minutes, gathering courage. Finally, she got out, walked to the door, knocked. A woman answered, mid-40s, dark hair going gray, tired eyes. She was wearing an army sweatshirt. The name Torres was printed across the front. "Can I help you?" the woman asked. "Mrs. Torres? My name is Staff Sergeant Morgan Reeves. I serve with your husband. May I come in?" The woman's face changed, something between hope and pain. "You knew Enrique?" "No, ma'am, but I found him, out there, in the mountains." Mrs. Torres's hand went to her mouth. For a moment, Morgan thought she would collapse, but she steadied herself, nodded, and stepped aside. "Please, come in." The living room was a shrine. Photos of Sergeant Enrique Torres everywhere. Him in uniform, him with his wife, him holding a baby. On the mantel was a folded flag in a display case. "They declared him KIA 8 months ago," Mrs. Torres said. She sat on the couch, gesturing for Morgan to sit. "His team was on a classified mission. Weather got bad. They lost contact. Search and rescue found nothing. She paused, just declared them all dead." Morgan's throat tightened. "I'm sorry for your loss, ma'am." "Did he suffer?" Morgan thought about Torres's frozen face, the scream caught in ice, the way his hand was still reaching for the radio. "No, ma'am," Morgan lied. "It was quick. Hypothermia. They wouldn't have felt much." Mrs. Torres nodded, wiped her eyes. "Thank you for telling me. The Army, They don't tell you anything. Just missing, presumed dead. No closure, no body, nothing to bury. I documented the location, Morgan said. Gave the coordinates to my command. They'll send a recovery team when the weather clears. Your husband and his team will come home. Mrs. Torres's face crumpled. She covered her mouth, sobbing. Morgan moved to sit beside her, awkward at first, then putting an arm around the woman's shoulders. He was a good man, Mrs. Torres said through tears. A good father. He used to video call our daughter every night from deployment, read her bedtime stories over the computer. She's 6 now. She still asks when Daddy's coming home. Morgan didn't know what to say, so she just held the woman while she cried. After a few minutes, Mrs. Torres composed herself. I'm sorry. I don't usually. It's just been hard. You don't need to apologize. Mrs. Torres stood, went to the kitchen, came back with 2 glasses of water. She handed one to Morgan. Can I ask you something? Of course. Why did you come here? You didn't know Enrique. You didn't have to tell me this. Morgan thought about that, about the image of Torres that had haunted her dreams, about the weight of seeing American soldiers frozen in the snow, abandoned by the mission that killed them. Because he deserved to be remembered, Morgan said. Because his family deserved to know what happened. And because, she paused, because I needed to know that his death mattered. That he wasn't just a body in the snow. He was a husband, a father, a soldier who died doing his job. Mrs. Torres reached out, took Morgan's hand. Thank you. You'll never know what this means to me. Morgan stayed for another hour, listened to stories about Enrique, about how he'd proposed on a beach in California, about the time he'd taught his daughter to ride a bike, about his terrible dad jokes and his love of horror movies. By the time Morgan left, the sun was setting. She sat in her car, hands on the wheel, feeling the weight of it all. Torres, Cole, Volkov, the choices she'd made, the lives she'd touched. She wasn't just a sniper, she was a witness to courage and cowardice, to sacrifice and survival, to the cost of war that didn't end when the bullets stopped flying. Morgan started the car and drove back to base. The road was long, but she'd walk it, one step at a time. 1 week later, Morgan was called back to Colonel Hayes's office. This time he was alone. No JAG officer, no recording device. Sit down, Staff Sergeant. Morgan sat. Hayes pulled out a folder. Classified markings on the cover. This arrived this morning from CIA, Hayes said. I thought you should see it. He opened the folder. Inside was a surveillance photo. It showed a man in civilian clothes walking through an airport. The image was grainy, taken from a distance, but Morgan recognized him. Volkov. Where was this taken? Morgan asked. Istanbul, 4 days ago. Facial recognition flagged him going through security. By the time Turkish intelligence mobilized, he was gone. Probably has a dozen fake passports. Hayes pulled out another photo. This one showed a bank statement. Large transactions, millions of dollars moving through offshore accounts. Volkov liquidated his assets, Hayes continued. $40 million, converted to cryptocurrency, untraceable. He's going underground, deep underground. Morgan stared at the photos. So he escaped? Yes, but there's something else. Hayes pulled out a third document, a decoded message. 2 days ago, Interpol received an anonymous tip, details on 3 bioweapon smuggling networks, names, dates, locations, enough to roll up entire operations. Let me guess, the tip came from Volkov. We can't prove it, but the intelligence is solid. Already led to 12 arrests in 4 countries, tons of confiscated materials that would have ended up in the hands of terrorists. Hayes leaned back in his chair. It seems General Volkov has decided to retire, and on his way out, he's burning his bridges. Morgan didn't know what to feel. Relief? Anger? Volkov had escaped, but he'd also done something good. Maybe not redemption, but something. Why are you telling me this? Morgan asked. Because the investigation into your conduct has been closed. Officially, Volkov died in the cabin during the firefight. No body was recovered due to the storm. Case closed. Morgan stared at him. You're covering it up. I'm recognizing that you made an impossible choice under impossible circumstances, and that sometimes the mission is more important than the target. Hayes's expression softened. You saved your partner's life. You brought him home. That matters. That counts for something. He pushed a form across the desk. This is your reinstatement. Full clearance. No black marks on your record. You're free to return to active duty whenever you're ready. Morgan looked at the form, at her career, her future, everything she'd thought was lost. What if I'm not ready? She asked quietly. Hayes nodded, like he'd expected that. Then take some time. Figure out what you want. The Army will be here when you get back, if you get back. 2 weeks later, Morgan visited Cole in the physical therapy ward. He was walking with a cane, his left foot still bandaged, but he was walking, and that was something. Look at you, Morgan said. Almost good as new. Cole snorted. Good as new with 3 fewer toes. I'm never running a marathon. You weren't running marathons before. Fair point. They walked together down the hallway, slow, careful. Cole leaned heavily on the cane, but he was steady, getting stronger every day. Sarah came to see me, Cole said. We talked. For hours. First real conversation we've had in years. How'd it go? Better than I deserved. She's giving me another chance. I don't know why, but I'm not going to waste it. They reached the end of the hallway, turned back. Cole stopped, leaning against the wall to catch his breath. I'm putting in for retirement, he said. Medical discharge. They're offering full benefits. Pension. The whole package. You sure about that? Yeah, I'm 58 years old with 3 toes missing. I'm done freezing my ass off in war zones. Time to be a dad. Time to be a grandfather, maybe, if I'm lucky. Morgan smiled. You'll be good at it. What about you? You coming back? Morgan had been thinking about that question for 2 weeks. She loved the work, loved being a sniper, loved the precision, the discipline, the way everything narrowed down to a single moment, a single shot. But she also remembered Volkov's words, about being honest with yourself, about the people she'd killed, about the line between soldier and monster. I don't know, Morgan admitted. Part of me wants to come back, but another part of me wonders if I'm just running away, using the mission to avoid thinking about what I've done. Cole put his hand on her shoulder. Whatever you decide, you're still ice. You're still one of the best I've ever worked with. Don't let what happened out there change that. What if it should change it? What if I'm supposed to be different now? Then be different, but don't be less. Don't let the doubt make you small. Morgan thought about that, about being different without being less, about finding a new way to be Morgan Reeves. Thanks, Cole. Anytime, kid. The psychiatrist's office was designed to be calming, soft lighting, comfortable chairs, a bookshelf full of self-help titles that probably no one ever read. Dr. Lisa Chen was in her early 40s, with kind eyes and a notepad that she barely looked at. She'd been evaluating soldiers for 15 years. She'd heard every story, seen every kind of trauma. How are you sleeping, Morgan? Dr. Chen asked. Fine. You sure about that? Because your medical records show you've been prescribed Ambien twice in the last month. Morgan shifted in her seat. I have some trouble falling asleep. It's normal. What happens when you close your eyes? Morgan didn't answer immediately. She looked at the window, at the trees outside, at anything except Dr. Chen's patient, knowing face. I see him, Morgan finally said. Torres, the soldier I found in the snow, his face, the way the ice had turned his eyes white. And I wonder if that's going to be me someday, frozen in some God-forsaken place, no one coming to get me. Dr. Chen made a note. That's a normal response to trauma. You witness something horrific. Your brain is trying to process it. It doesn't feel normal. What else do you see? Morgan took a breath. Cole. The way he looked when he was hypothermic. The blue lips. The confusion. I keep replaying that moment when he flatlined. When I thought I'd lost him. And I wonder if I did enough. If I could have done more. You saved his life. But I almost didn't. I let Volkov go. If I'd killed him, if I'd completed the mission, maybe Cole wouldn't have gotten so bad. Maybe we could have called for extraction sooner. Do you really believe that? Morgan was quiet. No, but I think about it anyway. Dr. Chen set down her notepad. Morgan, I'm going to be direct with you. You're showing classic signs of PTSD, intrusive thoughts, insomnia, hypervigilance, survivor's guilt. This is treatable, but you need to commit to treatment. I don't have PTSD. I'm fine. You're not fine, and that's okay. You went through something most people can't even imagine. You made impossible choices under impossible circumstances. You're allowed to not be fine. Morgan felt something break inside her. The wall she'd been holding up for weeks. The armor she'd worn since she was 18 years old and joined the army. I killed 4 men in that cabin, Morgan said. Her voice was barely a whisper. I didn't hesitate, didn't think, just pulled the trigger. And the thing that scares me is how easy it was, how natural it felt. You were in a combat situation. Your training took over. But what if all I am? What if I'm just a weapon, good at killing and nothing else? Dr. Chen leaned forward. You're not a weapon. You're a person who was trained to do a difficult job. And you did that job. But you're also a person who saved your partner's life, who visited the family of a fallen soldier you never met, who showed mercy to an enemy when you didn't have to. Those aren't the actions of a weapon. Those are the actions of someone with a conscience. Morgan wiped her eyes. She hadn't realized she was crying. I don't know how to be anything else, Morgan said. I've been a soldier for 6 years. It's all I know. And now I'm not sure I can keep doing it, but I'm not sure I can stop either. You don't have to decide today, or this week, or this month. You can take time. Figure out who Morgan Reeves is when she's not Staff Sergeant Reeves. And if I don't like who I find, then you change, you grow, you become someone new, but you don't do it alone. You do it with support, with therapy, with people who care about you. Morgan nodded slowly. Okay, 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 I'll do the therapy. I'll take the time. I'll figure it out. Dr. Chen smiled. That's all I'm asking. 1 month later, Morgan received a package. No return address, postmarked from Dubai. Inside was a burner phone and a note. Staff Sergeant Reeves, by now you know I survived. I imagine you're either relieved or angry, possibly both. I wanted you to know that I kept my word. I disappeared. I closed down my networks. I provided intelligence to help stop the people who would have used what I sold. It's not redemption. I'm not naive enough to believe that, but perhaps it's a start. You asked me once why I did what I did. The truth is, I stopped knowing a long time ago. I became a monster because it was easier than being a man. But you reminded me that I was a man once, that there was something worth saving. Thank you for that, and thank you for your mercy. You will not hear from me again. Morgan burned the note, crushed the phone, threw both into the trash. But she kept the memory of a man who'd been a monster, and a monster who'd been a man, and the impossible choice she'd made between duty and mercy. She didn't know if she'd made the right call. Maybe she never would. But she'd made the call she could live with. And in the end, that's all any soldier could do. 2 weeks later, Morgan stood in front of a mirror in her barracks. Her dress uniform hung on the door behind her. Pressed, perfect, ready for the ceremony. Colonel Hayes had called her that morning. You're getting a medal, he'd said. Silver Star, for valor under fire, for saving Master Sergeant Harrington's life under extreme conditions. Morgan had almost laughed. A medal, for disobeying orders, for letting the target escape, for choosing mercy over mission. But that's not what the citation would say. The citation would talk about tactical brilliance, about heroism in the face of overwhelming odds, about the courage to make hard choices. It wouldn't mention Volkov, wouldn't mention the 4 Spetsnaz soldiers she'd killed in close quarters, wouldn't mention the frozen faces of Torres and his team. It would be clean, sanitized, the way the army liked it. Morgan looked at herself in the mirror, at the woman in the PT shirt and cargo pants, at the scars on her knuckles, at the faint frostbite marks still visible on her cheeks. She didn't look like a hero. She looked like someone who'd survived. There was a knock at the door. Morgan opened it to find Cole standing there. He was in his dress uniform too, leaning on a cane, his left shoe modified to accommodate his missing toes. "You ready?" Cole asked. "I don't know." "It's just a ceremony. Shake some hands, smile for the cameras. You've done harder things." Morgan laughed. "Have I?" Cole stepped inside, closed the door. "What's really bothering you?" Morgan sat on her bunk. Cole sat beside her, setting his cane against the wall. "I don't know if I deserve it," Morgan said. "The medal, the recognition. I didn't complete the mission. I let Volkov go. I made a choice that could have gotten both of us killed. But it didn't. But it could have. And next time, it might. Next time I might hesitate at the wrong moment, might choose mercy when I should choose the mission. And someone could die because of it." Cole was quiet for a long moment, then he spoke. "You know what I've learned in 30 years of doing this job? There is no right choice. There's just choices and consequences and learning to live with both. That's not very comforting. It's not supposed to be comforting. It's supposed to be true." Cole turned to face her. "You saved my life. You made a call in the moment based on the information you had and the values you hold. That's all any of us can do. And if that makes you a bad soldier, then I don't want to serve with good soldiers." Morgan felt her throat tighten. "What if I can't do this anymore? What if I go back out there and I freeze? What if I can't pull the trigger when I need to?" "Then you find a different job. You teach. You train. You do something else. But you don't quit because you're afraid of becoming something you're not." Cole put his hand on her shoulder. "You're not a monster, Morgan. You're not a weapon. You're a soldier with a conscience. And that's exactly what we need more of." Morgan nodded. She wanted to believe him. Wanted to believe that doubt was strength, not weakness. That mercy was courage, not cowardice. "You coming to the ceremony?" Morgan asked. "Wouldn't miss it. Someone needs to make sure you don't bolt." Morgan smiled. "I won't bolt." "Promise?" "Promise." Cole stood, grabbed his cane. "Good, because they're giving me a medal too. Bronze Star. For not dying." He grinned. "Figure I should show up for that." They walked to the ceremony together. The parade ground was full of soldiers in dress uniforms, families in the stands, reporters with cameras, the whole spectacle of military pageantry. Morgan took her place in formation, Cole beside her. And when her name was called, when she marched forward to receive the Silver Star, she held her head high. Not because she believed she deserved it, but because Torres deserved to be honored. Cole deserved to be recognized. And somewhere in the world, Volkov deserved to be remembered as more than just a monster. The medal was heavy on her chest, heavier than she'd expected. But she wore it, carried it, accepted the burden of what it meant. And when the ceremony was over, when the speeches were done and the crowd dispersed, Morgan found herself standing alone on the parade ground, looking at the mountains in the distance. She thought about the frozen peaks, about the cabin, about the choices that had brought her here. And she thought about the future, about what came next. She had options now. She could return to active duty, could go back to being Ice, the sniper who never missed. Or she could walk away, could find something else, become someone else. The choice was hers. And for the first time in weeks, Morgan felt like she could breathe. 3 months later, Morgan stood at the edge of a shooting range. She had her rifle, not the Barrett, but a smaller weapon, a Remington 700, commercial model, no military markings. She set up the target, 800 meters, about half the range she was used to, but far enough to matter. She settled into position, felt the weight of the rifle, the familiar cold of the metal, the way her breathing slowed, the way the world narrowed to the scope. She found the target, centered the crosshairs, began her breathing cycle. In, out, in, out. On the third exhale, she squeezed the trigger. The rifle kicked, the bullet flew, and 800 meters away the target pinged. Center mass, perfect shot. Morgan worked the bolt. Chambered another round, fired again, another hit, and another, and another. She emptied the magazine, 10 shots, 10 hits, all within a 6-inch circle. She was still ice, still a sniper, still good at what she did, but she was also something else now, something different. She'd learned that mercy had a place, that monsters could be men, that the mission wasn't always the most important thing. And maybe that made her a better soldier, or maybe it just made her human. Morgan packed up her rifle, looked out at the range, the mountains in the distance, the snow on the peaks. She thought about Cole, home in Oregon with Sarah, about Volkov, somewhere in the world, living with his ghosts, about the choice she'd made in a frozen cabin on the edge of the world. And she thought about the future, about what came next. She didn't have all the answers, but she had enough. She had herself, her skills, her choices. And that was a start. Morgan walked off the range. The sun was setting. The air was cold, but not Arctic cold. Not the kind of cold that killed, just the kind of cold that reminded you that you were alive. And for Morgan Reeves, that was enough.